Hi guys, it's April 29th, 2020. I'm with the local ufologist Gordy Tong again. He lives about 10 miles from me. We're both in the same city. Last time we were talking about the New World Order, how they relate to UFOs. So I thought we should continue with this, Gordy. I want to ask more about this. It's such a big topic.
Okay, well, you just reminded me of a quote by Ronald Reagan. Remember, he gave a talk at the United Nations?
Yeah, famous video.
And he said that if the world was faced with a common threat, like an extraterrestrial threat, that the world would unite and come together, like as we've seen in the movie Independence Day, right?
Yeah, he said an alien threat, he said.
So an alien threat or a disclosure of an alien threat to mankind could be a reason why people might be willing to accept a global government to deal with a common threat.
So you mean this as a scam, something set up, like Werner von Braun warned that this would be done as a scam?
Yeah, he did. And so there are people like that are saying that there could be a false flag. Remember, Richard Dolan's been researching false flags. So the UFO invasion possibility or disclosure could, and there's more military disclosure of the UFO phenomenon. You know.
Yeah, one thing I like to comment on Richard Dolan, I've seen his videos with that in the last year. He says, no, I don't think so. He said, Werner von Braun died in 1977. He said, I don't think these new older guys would keep a plan going for 40 or 50 years, but I believe Richard Dolan is mistaken. They have plans going for 100 years to take over this world. They're patient. I think they would have a plan, planning 50 years in advance. So I think it is still possible to have a UFO false flag. And I think Richard Dolan himself said recently, human beings are easy to control. So probably the sheeple, the masses just go, oh, we're getting, it's Independence Day, we're getting invaded. I'll just do whatever the government tells me to do to stay safe.
But even if you don't have a hostile, invasion by what we think are evil aliens, the other side is we've talked about what are called benevolent or spiritual human-looking aliens like Valiant Thor.
Oh, yeah.
Now, how could that steer people toward a world order?
Oh yeah, that might, even if they're benevolent, people might
because some of these aliens are passing on this idea, like Valiant Thor, the concept of oneness. We'll realize our oneness with God and with everything else, and that we're all one, just one connected.
I don't believe it.
Oneness or something.
I think good people and bad people are not one. They got very different karmas. They're going to different. We're not one.
No. This concept of oneness is based on pantheistic, monistic ideas and
down with
worldviews.
Oneness. Down with oneness.
But my late friend Ray Youngin, remember you met Ray Youngin?
Yeah.
He wrote a book. He wrote two books. One is called "They Shall Come, Many Shall Come in My Name," and we've talked about that lately. There will be false Christs and people claiming to come in the name of Jesus. We've seen that in the UFO phenomena. And if people need more details about that, I can give it. But he also wrote a book called Time of Departing. That was his most famous book. And he's given many talks and interviews and lectures. You can see some of his lectures and his conclusion. He was researching the New Age movement, like myself, before the UFO phenomena. He actually had a UFO sighting himself in Berkeley, California. And later he had maybe a humanoid sighting in Oregon on a walk.
What did he see?
In Oregon, he was on a walk and he met something that he would describe as humanoid, but may not fully human.
What if that's a gray or a Bigfoot or what?
He didn't say it was a Bigfoot or a gray, but maybe it was something that looked human but wasn't human.
Like maybe a tall white or Nordic.
Yeah, because there are human aliens that look, more human than others, right? The tall whites, the Pleiadians and Nordics and so on. So, but anyways, so the philosophy that's coming from what are called spiritual benign aliens, like Paul Hellyer is dividing the two aliens into two camps, the evil ones, that are involved with the Dulce base and abductions, and then those that are benign, that are here to give us new technology, new energy, solve a lot of our problems, heal our
people. I think, that's better than Stephen Greer says they're all benign, but how would he know? Does he have special knowledge?
No, yeah, I know.
How would he know?
It's hard to say that they're all benign when we have phenomena like the abduction phenomena where people are not happy. They're not being, let's say, blessed by this phenomena. They feel actually haunted or cursed by it. You
Yeah,
know,
you and I know Doug here in Vancouver. Just terrible experiences since 1956
yeah,
when he was a
exactly.
baby.
So for him, I don't think he's encountered too much benignness. He claims,
Yeah,
though, that some aliens fixed him up so he could have a child. You've heard
yeah,
that
yeah. He
before.
said his sperm couldn't father a child, but he does have a
Yeah,
child.
when was the last time you spoke to him?
Oh, maybe 2 years ago. We've lost touch with him. And
Well,
one thing, he really hates this phenomenon. He doesn't want to talk about it. He said, I wish I could just go to a psychiatrist. He could give me a pill and tell me it's not true. It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
authentic. Yeah.
Okay, well, he was actually starting to consider that this phenomena could be like demonic at one time, and then he was debriefed about this phenomena uh, and the UFO subject and also the Christian faith, because his wife is Catholic or from the Philippines,
Yeah.
and so they were going to church together. And he went to a United Church in North Vancouver. He had a chance to share his testimony or his story um, with the female pastor of the church, and I
Oh,
spoke to
yeah.
this pastor as well, and she seemed, to be a real Christian, but she was fired from her job because this
Oh,
church was going in a liberal direction. Some of the
oh.
elders were very liberal, and she was, a more conservative. She's becoming more conservative in her view about the Bible and Christian beliefs. So they got rid of her, and then Grant left that church as well. But then he was debriefed by somebody who tried to tear the whole Christian church down, and this person was into Kabbalism.
He told me he met with a rabbi one of the last times I
Yeah,
talked to him.
that was the person, this Kabbalistic rabbi,
Yeah.
and he just tried to shred the whole Christian faith because he was just very against any kind of thing called Christianity. So, but uh, uh, so getting back to this globalism thing, like I told you, harmonic convergence was the first time I heard this connection of making contact in order to create, according to the newsletter I got from the whole
It's the early 1980s.
Yeah, that this going to various sacred places or places for harmonic for convergence would facilitate the creation of what the United Nations calls, and the United Nations was mentioned in this document, facilitate a new world order. Okay, so the purpose of
Yeah,
contact
it
with these
was.
higher galactic intelligence, these aliens, would help to facilitate that. I don't know why he came to that conclusion, but
Yeah.
that's what he wrote in the newsletter. So that's the first time I heard about it. But now we just talked about Ronald Reagan. Gorbachev also said that he agreed, from what I've read, that yeah, if there was an invasion of Earth, Russia and America would join together and deal with this common threat. Have you heard that?
I didn't know Gorbachev said that, but it's great for the New
Yeah,
World
I heard.
Order. Let's get everyone together. We gotta
Yeah.
surrender your powers to us. We'll take care of
Whether
you.
we have evil aliens that are threatening Earth, that could facilitate people desiring a world government or something to deal with it, a common threat. Or if you have benign aliens that have a new age philosophy for us to believe in, that we're all one, we're all connected, all the major world religions, can come together. We can create. See, there's a prophecy in the book of Revelation called Mystery Babylon the Great. This woman is described as a harlot that sits on a beast, okay? And this harlot is labeled Mystery Babylon the Great. Now, why is she called that? Well, the word mystery is sometimes associated with the idea of mysticism. And so some Christian scholars and prophecy teachers believe that Mystery Babylon the Great stands for this one world religion. But this one world religion will be like a harlot that will be used by the Antichrist system to provide a spiritual philosophy for this world order, this world government. They need something, some philosophical foundation. Why not bring all the religions together?
Yeah.
But you can't bring it. So Ray Youngman said, well, he noticed that what was bringing these people together of different religions that never came together before was unitive mystical experiences. The Dalai Lama was saying, hey, you don't need to be a Buddhist. You could be a Christian. But hey, you can experience something they called it Kala Chakra.
Yeah, I should mention as a Buddhist, the Dalai Lama, I think he's been bought and paid for by the New World Order. 1959, they got him out of Tibet. And even today, he speaks in favor of transhumanism, like connecting the brain
Yeah.
to machines and AI. So he's sold out. He's not
Well,
really
Tibetan
representing
Buddhism is not pure Buddhism. It
Yeah,
is
I'm pure Buddhism. Theravada, we're pure
okay.
Buddhism.
Well, anyways.
But he's even selling out Tibetan Buddhism along with this New World Order agenda.
Okay, I was in contact by email with one of Dalai Lama's followers in Europe and in Germany. He helped to publish some of the Dalai Lama's books. And he said he was initiated in the higher levels of the Kala Chakra ceremony in Switzerland by some of the Dalai Lama's followers. And he said that was the reason why he left Tibetan Buddhism. That's why he rejected, because at the higher levels of
What happened?
He said it was so disgusting and so horrible what he experienced at the highest levels of this experience. He implied some form of tantric sex, okay, that was going on. He implied cannibalism, demonic activity. All this was happening, and that was the last straw. He didn't want to have anything.
Yeah, look at those Tibetan deities. Certainly, tantric sex that began as a revolt even against Mahayana Buddhism. Like Buddhist scholars say, okay, that began around 6 or 7 A.D. Just as a revolt, but it's not proper Buddhism at all. Yeah, it's degenerate.
Yeah, some gurus in India practice tantric sex. I think it was Maharishi. Didn't he endorse? The Beatles wrote a song about him and called him Sexy Sadie.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if he endorsed that.
He was trying to hit on some of the,
Mia Farrow,
his followers, and
according to John Lennon. It's kind of vague. We don't really know what happened, but yeah, I think tantric sex just another excuse to get laid by a guru.
But anyways, it was not just tantric sex. I mean, at the higher levels of the Kala Chakra, there could be things like the need to eat human flesh. Like some of the people that are higher levels of Satanism, they're into eating the flesh of young babies, drinking their blood.
The blood, yeah, we know that.
Yeah, because so why are they doing that? Well, there's this idea that if you drink the blood of young children, you can rejuvenate, you can live longer, you can, if you're getting old and tired, you can feel young again. Or
Prince Philip is 99, right? Queen Elizabeth is like 93.
Well, I don't know if they're involved with this. There's rumors, but it's very hard to verify these rumors.
Yeah, I don't know.
But David Icke, he didn't come to this conclusion that there were people that had this ability to shapeshift into a reptilian form. He wasn't looking for this. People came to him saying, hey, when he was in Vancouver, I saw David Icke at this store downtown that sold, spy stuff and books.
What year was that?
I think
he said in his book in the 1990s, around 96.
I think it was in the 90s he was here.
He had small groups of 30 people, and all these people were talking about reptilians in the United States.
He met a woman who claimed that when she had a boyfriend, and when they were having sex, he shapeshifted into a reptilian form.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he claimed.
Yeah.
And then I told you about this woman that called me, and she wanted to, make contact with an alien, and she did. She went to Tokyo and she joined a dating service, and she was a bit lonely. She was by herself. So the dating service sent her this fellow that was claimed to be a British diplomat. Anyways, during that evening, they had consensual sex, but he shapeshifted from a human form into something that was more alien. But she was looking for that. She wanted to have some kind of connection or contact.
Was that on her dating profile? I'm looking for a guy who can shapeshift. That would be impressive.
No. Maybe she said she was interested in science fiction, Star Trek, and that stuff. Even in Star Trek, there's, Spock, he's the product of a human mother and a Vulcan father. This idea that you can have a hybrid between human and, okay? Yeah. So the abduction phenomena, people are being selected. They're being, a sperm and egg is taken them. They are bearing children. And some of these children, the early hybrids, according to David Jacobs, they don't look fully like us. They have bigger skulls or bigger eyes, or wispy
Yeah.
hair. But then
I've seen people
later,
like that.
through the, see, there's supposed to be an agenda to upgrade these hybrids so they look more and more like us. So David Jacobs in his book, The Threat, says that some of these hybrids are now at the age where they are taking UFO people that are interested in UFO stuff and UFO encounters. They're taking them to places, maybe out in the countryside or someplace, where they are having sex with these hybrids. Okay, and these hybrids that are, they already have a bit more human DNA or something, and so the new hybrids, according to David Jacobs, are looking more and more like us, but they follow this agenda.
Yeah.
This agenda is to bring more and more people in to be hybridized, yeah. And David Jacobs, some of the abductees that he's interviewed has said, you know, when we're taken aboard the UFO, you know, we're showing our children sometimes, these hybrid children, but other times they're shown a screen, like a screen on the wall, and it says, hey, can you tell who's who? You know, is everybody, you know, in this picnic scene or whatever, don't they all look human? And the abductees, yeah, they look great. You know, they look like us. And the aliens, according to what he heard, say, well, that's good. We want them to look like you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so
I agree with this.
So that because in the, I worked on the TV series Taken, the miniseries, Spielberg miniseries. I worked on it on 2 locations.
What you do? What sort of work did you do?
I was, well, they depicted this farm out in Langley that was supposed to be Lubbock, Texas. And remember, you know who Dakota Fanning is, Elle Fanning?
No.
They were child stars. They were child actresses that were portraying this child who was the child of 2 abductees. 2 abductees that are human. They had this child, a special child played by Dakota Fanning. She was hybrid, but she was fully human like us. And so in the scene I was with, there were abductees and somebody who playing a guy that was supposed to be Art Bell. We all go to this ranch where this child is. And
so you were an actor, you mean?
I was a background performer in the show.
Oh, okay.
We were trying to find out why we were being abducted, or why the abductees were, you know, implants were put in them. And we went to this house on this ranch, and Dakota Fanning, who played this abductee child, she was like a messiah figure. She could manipulate reality. She could heal people. She seemed to have answers that other people didn't have. So we went there, and when we were talking to her, trying to find answers, the implants fell out of the noses of abductees. Okay,
that was the script.
But then the government, the deep state were after her, or, you know, the men in black were after her. They sent in a SWAT team to try to grab this girl, and the abductees had to fend off all these SWAT people, and there was actually physical, let's say, contact, to the point where people actually got hurt. There were some people that got bruises and scratches and things because it started to become very physical. But they didn't grab her because the UFO started to show up all over this ranch or this farmhouse. And a beam of light comes down, and everybody's looking at this beam of light, and Dakota Fanning, who plays this hybrid child, goes into the beam of light, and she's taken up, and, you know, I don't know, that was the end of the show pretty well.
Cool movie, man.
But the idea is that they are trying to create a hybrid race on this planet, a hybrid race that looks like us, okay?
But it's the idea that they're going to take over the place like David Jacobs, and we'll just be a second-class race compared to them.
The people that are not chosen, okay? Remember, we've heard this idea that, were you at the Paul Hilliard Richard Dolan conference? Remember?
No, I wasn't.
No, it was not at UBC. It was at,
I was working that night.
Real Theater. Well, I went there, and one of the speakers, I think it was Grant Cameron, he gave a talk. He had a PowerPoint, and he showed this beautiful girl who was supposed to be one of the chosen ones. She was either a contactee or an abductee. And then he said to us, we have to find people like her. We need to find people like her, and she will direct us and show us, you know, what to do, okay? or become one of the chosen ones yourself. And so I thought that was very interesting, that very similar to what we saw in the movie Taken. Now, the reason why some of these abductees were, why children were being born, there was hybrids that were being born, was that the aliens wanted to create a hybrid race that looks like us. In order to have sex with human women, they would have to take on a pleasing human form. In order to, they could take on an animal form. They could take on, they
could
could
be
have
good-looking studs. You mean to
but
make
if they were handsome and they were good looking,
Oh, thank you, Gordy.
there would be human women that would fall for these hybrid men in order to create even more hybrids. Okay, so Timothy Good, in one of his recent interviews or talks on YouTube, he said, from his understanding, this hybridization program is not for the benefit of us. The things that are going on at the Skinwalker Ranch generally is not good for humans or adults.
You know, what comes to my mind, I just want to give you my theory, since today we have mainly human beings in the New World Order, like Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and working with the aliens. Maybe the aliens would rather work with hybrids, higher quality, rather than just Rockefellers and Rothschilds. Maybe that's long term, over the decades, over the centuries. It's a gradual thing, right?
Getting back to, we were talking about the Antichrist earlier. There's been some feature films like the Omen series, okay? And then there was Rosemary.
Yeah, like Damien Omen, that was a cool series.
Yeah, well,
early 80s.
Well, how did this Antichrist get birthed? Well, a woman was chosen. In that show, it wasn't aliens. It was some demonic being that chose to bear the children to create, Damien, the Antichrist. In the movie Rosemary's Baby, there was a coven of witches that were into Satanism or something, and then a demon impregnates Mia Farrow to bear the Antichrist, right? And you see the Antichrist with an upside down cross above her crib and that kind of thing. So from what my research into the UFO cults and religions, we already have this kind of messianic, prophetic kind of direction. We have it in the Raelian movement. We have it in the Aetherius Society. Some of these UFO cults, claim that some world leader is going to appear, and he could be hybrid. The possibility that he's part human. In Rosemary's Baby is part human, part demon.
That makes sense. They've probably been doing this since what, the 1940s or 30s, so that would make sense.
In the New Testament, it talks about not just one Antichrist, it talks about many Antichrists. Caesar Nero, who was worshipped as a deity in the Roman Empire, he persecuted the Christians, but he was considered to be, kind of a divine Caesar, right? He was divine as well as human. We have that in World War II in Japan. There's a concept of the emperor's family having an ancestry to the gods, like the gods.
They call it kami. They say they came down from the gods.
Yeah, the kami are the Shinto gods.
Yeah,
and they chose a particular ancestry or family to bear the ancestry that has led to the royal family of.
Oh, thank you.
Of Japan. So this idea that pharaohs or Caesars or some emperor could be a god has been part of Earth history.
And part of it could be a hybrid too, right? Like Egypt had the long hair, the elongated skulls. Which they had in Peru as well.
Were pharaohs that they had human features, but they had elongated skulls. They had bodies that didn't look fully like normal humans, like Tutankhamun. And so some UFO researchers or ancient astronaut theorists are saying, oh, maybe this pharaoh was part alien or hybrid or something.
So Gordy, you're saying that's New World Order, even like 3,000 years ago?
Okay,
that's
well,
New World Order.
Well, Jesus said, before his coming, it'll be like the days of Noah. And before the days of Noah, when there was a worldwide flood, according to Genesis, there was these fallen angels that were called the sons of God. In the book of Enoch, they're called the Watchers. Okay? Now, they came down, they desired and had married the daughters of men. And they bore these men of renown, in some English translators called men of renown. in the Greek or Hebrew is Nephilim. So Nephilim could be beings of great stature like Goliath or some of the giants mentioned in the Old Testament, but they could also be the demigods of some of the ancient pagan religions like Hercules, Achilles, Perseus. Alexander the Great was told by an oracle that his real father was Zeus.
Also, like saying Buddhism and Hinduism, like Saka's our main god for planet Earth, and then we have the heaven of the four great kings in the first heaven.
So the Bible
Saka's
says,
the second.
the Bible does warn that there will be many antichrists. It talks about the spirit of Antichrist, but it talks about many antichrists. But it talks about eventually there's going to be one final Antichrist who will, unite the world. He will he will have 10 rulers under him that will rule the 10 major regions of the world. Like I told you about the New World Order
like
map.
The EU and then North America.
Well, the EU is a step toward world order. Okay, there was a proposed North American Union that could be a step to creating another region of the world. But I want your listeners should look at this New World Order map or the Club of Rome map. I saw it in a book written by a fellow who was involved with secret projects in the States. And he gave forth this Club of Rome map. When I was up living in Prince Rupert, I did some research on the Club of Rome, and I went to an environmental conference that was here in Vancouver, and I went to a tourism conference. I had media access, and I went into the media room. Both of those conferences were promoting a new age concept of world government and world order through tourism and through the environmental movement.
But that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
We're controlled by globalists, so how could that not be like that? How could it be any other way, right?
Well, there are certain Hollywood films that combine spiritual journeys where you don't just stay in your own country. You go to India or you go to Indonesia. There's a movie with Julia Roberts called Eat, Pray, Love. So her travels and her
it's a very popular book too, right?
It was a popular book, but it was decided if you travel and experience other cultures, other religions, you can, develop a new kind of spirituality. But you will not be just restricted maybe sometimes to one religion, okay? So Julia Roberts eventually started to adopt some of the teaching of the Hindu faith, okay? But other people will join a UFO religion or cult, and they will adopt the revelation of the prophet or the Messiah of that UFO cult. And again, many of these UFO religions have a world globalistic agenda. The alien movement wants to, identify the Messiah or the final prophet of the apocalypse as Rael.
But is this Rael trying to get a good job for himself, or do you think these are aliens or the elites trying to get these things stolen?
He claims he's had contact, in France. He was.
He saw a swastika underneath the UFO in 1973.
He claimed he saw a swastika on the UFO.
Do you believe him? What do you think? Would you believe him?
Well, there was a journalist that checked into Rael. He went to his hometown and interviewed some of the people that knew Rael. And some of Rael's friends or people that knew him said, Rael made up a lot of this stuff. Maybe he did have an encounter.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know if he had an encounter or not. But they think he made up some of this stuff to create this cult.
That's what I think. I mean, I tend to never even discuss a cult. I think it's unworthy of reputation. I don't even discuss it, but you're bringing it up so we can discuss it.
Okay, well, it's related because there are UFO religions and cults. There's a list of them on Wikipedia, okay? And, hello? Are you still there?
I hear you fine. I just turn off the mic because I get background noise from the street.
Okay,
the pipes in my building. I live in an old 1965 building.
Okay, well, anyways, so if you look at UFO religions, they do have prophecy or predictions that there's going to be a world leader, okay? And it could be Rael, it could be this globe master that's prophesied by the Ethereal Society and George King. And so, again, you see elements of some kind of world government in the future with a world leader. And this world leader could be part alien or part human or something like that. But David Jacobs is getting some of the same ideas that there's going to be a world government, a hybrid alien world government.
Well, the New World Order wants that in this realm, in the human realm. The New World Order wants that, right?
So if you look at some of the stuff I mentioned, and look it up on the internet, harmonic convergence. If you get enough material, you'll see this trend in the UFO religions and some people within the contactee movement. Their goal is to create, it's almost like a Star Trek future.
Well, Star Trek is part of the agenda too. They have the United Federation of Planets, looks like the United Nations. You know, the very first episode of Star Trek, the pilot in 1964 had the Greys. They had genetic hybrids. Captain Christopher Pike was taken to Talos 4, and they needed him to mate with the human woman.
Yeah.
So they could have their own race of slaves. And
well,
Greys. I've got them right on my wall here, actually.
Have you seen the episode from Ancient Alien called The Mysterious Nine?
No.
There's a thing about Star Trek in this episode that Gene Roddenberry, who helped to create the Star Trek, idea.
Well, he created it, yeah.
And the episode, and some of the episodes he wrote. He was part of a group of people. There was a Dr. Hal Puthoff. Dr. Puthoff.
Yeah, he's
they were very interested in making contact with what they called the Nine. The Nine were like godlike aliens. Like in Star Trek, you have the Q continuum. They're godlike aliens. But in some Star Trek episodes, they have humans going through some kind of alien, some barrier in the galaxy, and they are being transformed to gain godlike powers as well. Okay.
Yeah, with Gary Mitchell, I got a picture on my wall. That was the second pilot episode with Gary Mitchell. Went through the galactic barrier, became omnipotent powers with glowing eyes.
Yeah. So in some religions like Shintoism and in some of the pagan religions, if you are doing things that please the gods, you can become a god or demigod yourself, where you are the child of a god, like Hercules was supposed to be, right? So in our myths and our folklore, we've had these ideas of beings that, come from somewhere, but
it's all over the world, eh?
Yeah, they can interbreed with human beings.
Yeah.
And the Genesis 6 talks about these watchers, these sons of God that would come down, have sex with human women, and then they would bear these Nephilim, and so there's supposed to be
nothing new. You're saying this is nothing new.
This is nothing new. It's just that it's starting to manifest in a way that didn't manifest so much before. Before, in early UFO research, there was very little talk about hybrids and hybrid children being born, right? And we didn't know why the abductions were happening.
I think in the late 70s it began.
But then we started
80s.
to notice that there was an agenda for the purpose of the abductions, and that was to create this, army or these hybrid children. And it was depicted in the show Taken, okay? Maybe she wasn't exactly a hybrid, but she was a child of two abductees that were chosen. And so there's this idea that it's good that you become one of the chosen ones, or you find people that are the chosen, okay? And there's this, you've heard of the beings called the benefactors?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a Twilight Zone episode called The Chosen?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I did when I was 5 years old.
Well, go to YouTube. It was a shot, I think, in the Lower Mainland. I think some of the locations were in New Westminster. Somebody at the UFO meetup group told me to watch that film. Okay, he was a contactee himself. You might know this person. But anyways, he said, watch this film, It's about, the title of the film is called The Chosen. Well, I heard that term chosen at the UFO conference when Grant Cameron spoke, that we have to find these people that are chosen. Well, David Jacobs is saying that some of these abductees are being chosen, and they're supposed to direct people in the future. They're supposed, like in one abductee said that she was in this town. There was a map of her town. And the aliens were saying, you need to know how to go from this place to another place in the town and direct people there.
I read that. I told that to our friend Doug, the abductee, and he's never read this before because he's not interested in studying ufology. But he said, you know, I knew that all the time. I've had that feeling. I've been given the same feeling. But he was
He had
given
a
that feeling
feeling
about the
that
aliens.
he was chosen, right?
Yeah, but he's never
Yeah.
read this in a UFO book. I was telling him I read this in David Jacobs' book. He said, "Really? Holy
Well,
smokes!
somebody's
I've had that feeling
abductees.
for years."
In the Twilight Zone episode, there are two human-looking aliens going door to door in this town, and they're offering everyone that opens the door a gift, like a DVD.
Oh
They
yeah.
said, "Here, we have a gift for you. We have something we want to give you. Watch this DVD,
They
and
had
we'll come."
DVDs back in 1961 with the Twilight Zone.
Well, no, this was not the original Twilight
Oh,
Zone, and
okay. You mean
this was the one later. It was shot in color.
okay.
There's a new Twilight Zone series being shot before the whole thing was canceled recently.
Oh, that's
But
cool.
but
Oh.
in this episode, these two human-looking aliens are going door to door, and they knock on this door of this one guy, and he thinks these two are, you know, from a cult or a religious cult or something, and he says, "No, I'm not interested." He didn't want the DVD, and so, you know, he rejects it. But his girlfriend took the DVD and said, "Hey, I've watched the DVD. Hey, you should come with us. They're offering to take us from this town, take us somewhere else where it's safe." Okay, and but there's this idea that if you are one of the chosen and you accept their offer to go with them, then, well, anyways, a number of people in this town are contacted by these two aliens, the girlfriend, and then his best buddy, who's a, you know, Vietnam vet who's handicapped. He accepts this gift that they're going to take him somewhere. Okay, so at the end, near the end of the show, some of his friends and his girlfriend are standing in front of his house. The two aliens are knocking on the door again. You know, we're giving you one more chance. Can you come with us? Please come with us. And he said, no way. In fact, he thinks, again, his friends are being deluded by the two members of a cult. You know, he doesn't even believe they're aliens. He's not sure what they are, but he thinks they're a member of some cult. Anyways, he gets so mad, he pulls out his rifle and shoots the male person, the male alien.
Oh, maybe he had too much sugar in his coffee. I understand.
Well, anyways, that was not a problem. These aliens have special powers. They heal him immediately. He's almost like he's dead from the gunshot wound. But then he comes back to life and he says, you know, we've made a mistake. You're not one of the chosen. we made a mistake inviting you. And so they all go onto the lawn, all the people and the two. And all of a sudden, like in Star Trek, you know, they're taken up. Right after they're taken up, a nuclear bomb goes off in the distance, and there's this shock wave that's coming toward this guy that's rejected the offer, and he perishes, of course, and everybody else in the town that doesn't accept the offer. So when this person told me to watch the show, and I said, well, why you know, the reason why he wanted me to watch the show was he thinks he's one of the chosen. He believes he's been contacted by human-looking aliens. He calls them the benefactors. I don't want to mention his name, but you probably know who I'm talking about. And he believes that he's been offered a key to portals that he can enter and escape this world before a worldwide apocalypse. Well, there's some abductees and contactees that are being offered the same opportunity or possibility, just like in the Twilight Zone episode.
No, I have to add some information to this. So I have a whole playlist on my BitChute channel people can see called World War III South Africa. And since 2016, I made many videos with Simon Roche in South Africa about the prophecies of Nicholas von Rensburg in South Africa. He's prophesizing World War III around our time. He says the Northern Hemisphere will be devastated. You got to get out of the Northern Hemisphere, go to South Africa and Namibia. So I'm wondering if this will actually happen and some of these chosen will be saved. And how can I get a ticket?
Well, at the end of the Mayan calendar, remember in 2012, there were people that went to a place in the Pyrenees between France and Spain. It was a place where UFOs were seen, and they were hoping if the end of the world was coming, they could go there to escape. There's a term for this escape. It's called it might be the mass evacuation. That's one of the terms used for it. There's some UFO researchers that are talking about the ascension event.
Yeah, I think in the Pyrenees, so there actually is an underground base there, an alien
Well,
base.
UFOs have been seen in the mountains there.
Yeah,
Okay,
Richard
that's
Dolan
why.
had a list of bases, even the Himalayas, like Kingdom of Shangri-La. He says there actually is an alien base there, and I think
Okay,
Pyrenees is one of them.
well, in the some Christian denominations, they have a teaching about what is called the pre-tribulation rapture. Okay, they believe that at a certain time, Christians are going to disappear from this world before this period of 7 years, the Great Tribulation, begins. Okay, they'll be gone. I was introduced to that idea many, many years ago through certain books on prophecy, and I started to question this interpretation. But this idea of a mass evacuation and then all the chosen are taken, it sounds more like what is depicted in this show, The Chosen, the Twilight Zone episode. I have a friend who's an ex-abductee. He became a pastor to bikers in Detroit. His name is Jim Williamson. Anyways, Jim Williamson had a dream, and he said some other Christians have had this similar dream. And the dream goes like this. These Christians in the dream, they hear a voice and they think it's the voice of God telling them to go to a certain location to await the second coming. Okay, so they think, well, if God is telling me to go to a certain location, I'll go. So in the dream, these people go to the location. Instead of Jesus coming with the angels and the trumpets, he sees a whole bunch of UFO. People see a whole bunch of UFOs up in the sky.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but the UFOs are like in the show Skyline. They lower a beam of light to the ground, and and there's been some Hollywood movies about this, like the Escape to Witch Mountain. There was an episode of that earlier show of that, where these children were told to step into the light, step into the beam of light, then they'd be taken up into that happened with Dakota Fanning when they were trying to get her.
Well, that happened to Travis Walton in real life in 1965
yeah, and Travis Walton
with 5 witnesses.
was hit by a beam of light, and then he was taken, right?
Yeah.
And anyways, but as these people in the dream are being taken up into the UFO, they sense that they've been deceived, that this is not the second coming of Christ. And they're starting to scream. They're fearful that they're being taken into this UFO. And once they get into the UFO, they're all in the UFO now, they're still screaming. So Jim Williamson told me that there's people within the UFO community that are looking for this thing called the mass evacuation. It's like it's a counterpart to some of the churches that talk about a pre-tribulation.
I think it's timely now. It could be World War III coming up as 2020, the prophecies of Nicholas von Rensburg. I think we should study this more,
Okay, well, there are prophecies about the second coming of Christ, but it doesn't appear like in this dream or in the Twilight Zone episode.
I'm concerned about the prophecies of World War III. See, I'm a Buddhist. I'm not too concerned about Jesus, but nice if he showed up. That'd be cool.
Okay, well, there are some people that study Bible prophecy that the beginning of this tribulation period as a period of 7 years will begin with a third world war. Okay, and then after this war, Jewish people will be allowed to build what is called the third temple. The first temple was the Solomon's temple, then Herod's temple followed that. That was the temple at the time of Christ. But in Bible prophecy, there's a third temple. That third temple will eventually be desecrated by the final Antichrist. He's going to set up an image of himself in this temple, declare himself to be God. And this thing called the abomination of desolation, which is an image or hologram of the beast, will be worshipped. Okay, so we have the technology to create holographic images now and androids that can speak to us. Well, people will marvel at this abomination. They won't call it an abomination, but they will marvel that this thing that shouldn't be able to speak can speak. Well, we can do that now with animatronics, with robots, androids. We have Sophia. What has Sophia said? Remember, Elon Musk says that this artificial intelligence can release a demon, into the world, or.
What do you think of Elon Musk? What side is he on? What do you think?
Well, on one side, he's warning about AI. At the same time, he's using AI in his Tesla vehicles. You know, he's creating the Starlink satellite system to interact with Tesla vehicles and for
And
other purposes.
5G, right? He's putting 5G
And then he's
satellites up
talking about
now.
this neural link between humans and computers. I'm not sure if that's a good idea.
Yeah, and he says, "Oh, this will help the handicapped." You can see his YouTube video on Elon Musk. Oh, help the handicapped if they disabled, they can't walk. So this is, I think he's a front for the Rothschilds to take over our brains with AI. I don't trust Elon. I think
Well,
he's aligned with dark forces.
have you heard that humans can be a machine that a ghost can invade or a ghost can control?
Yeah, it's called 16 personalities, Sybil, like multiple
Yeah,
personality schizophrenic. I think
well,
that's what's happening.
have you heard of Alexa? It's a
Yeah, so on the
device.
computer, talk to Alexa. Yeah.
Well, no, there's Siri on Mac products,
Yeah.
but there's Alexa
I've heard
that's
them
come from
both.
Amazon or something.
Yeah.
Amazon has created something called Alexa. There's a Google Home thing. You speak to it, and you can turn on lights and turn on music and that kind of thing, or get the weather. But there's been people that have had these devices in their house. You can go to YouTube, and these devices sometimes say things that are disturbing. I mean, you start to crackle and laugh, you know, for no reason.
You mean they kind of like Dr. Evil,
Yeah.
like,
Well, they laugh in a way that's creepy, okay?
Really?
And people said, hey, you know, why is Alexa saying that, you know, laughing like that? And then Sophia was asked the question, well, you know, what do you think about humankind? And she says things like, well, you will regret that you made us, or I will destroy mankind. Or
Really? Siri saying that?
Yeah, Sophia has said that.
Sophia said that?
But she's under, you see, have you heard that in Brian Fuster is a good example. When Brian Fuster died, his sister called me and said, hey, why don't you come and, you know, some of the books that he had on UFOs, you can have them. And she gave some books to UFO BC as well. So he had a huge collection of UFO books. So I selected some of the ones I wanted. But anyways, Brian had in his collection a book called Phone Calls from the Dead.
I remember that in high school, Phone Calls from the Dead.
Okay, well, he had that book.
That's so cool.
But when Brian's sister took a phone that was disconnected it from the wall, there was poltergeist activity actually happening in his apartment after he died. There was a fireplace would turn on and off by itself, okay? I took some pictures of the living room, and I got a whole bunch of orbs in my photos. I'm not, you know, I don't see orbs all the time as a photographer, but there was quite a few orbs in his library room and this other room. I thought that was a bit unusual, but the poltergeist activity. But when Brian's sister took the phone and put it in the car, it was not connected to anything. It rang. And she picked up the phone and there was nobody on the other end.
But do you think that's just Brian's spirit saying he's around, checking on his sister?
Well, we don't know. But another thing that happened was she needed to get into the apartment with the keys that, you know, that Brian gave her. And the keys she put in her purse. Anyways, she tried to find her keys that she had put in her purse and she couldn't find them. And says, that's odd, I can't find them. And then I said, well, check the lining. Maybe there's a hole in the lining of your purse. And so she checked and there was no hole in the lining. So we had to cut a hole in the lining to get the keys. There was no hole.
They're inside, sewn inside, and there's no way they could have gotten in there.
We couldn't find a hole or a gap in the lining. We had to cut it with a knife or a scissor or something to get in to get her keys. So in places where there's paranormal phenomena, UFO phenomena, like the Skinwalker Ranch, there are things that are like poltergeist activity. Like Lauren Goldfader said there was poltergeist activity in his apartment when he was being, you know, when he made contact with these beings.
But we were talking about the New World Order and UFOs.
Okay, now let's get back to New World Order.
Yeah, because we're almost out of time. If you just want to finish up the New World Order, whatever you need to say.
Okay, well, the New World Order will use total surveillance technology. They'll use some way to track people. with like a mark or a computer chip or something. And right now, there's people talking about that there might be a need for mandatory vaccines. I have a friend,
That's
Nixon,
evil, I know.
and he quit nursing. He was a nurse for 10 years. And the reason why he quit nursing, he found out there were certain things with the vaccine that can make people sick or make people unwell.
Give them
And
autism,
and he didn't want like things like autism. There's been a documentary I saw of parents in Australia that were, told to give a vaccine to their young child. Some of these children became autistic.
Yeah.
They had behavioral problems after.
There's a movie called Vax that explains that more.
Yeah.
You're relating this to New World Order, how it's deliberate. What does
Okay,
that have to do with UFOs and aliens, though?
Well, we talked about that the UFO phenomena can condition people, whether it's perceived as a threat or something spiritually benign, to accept a philosophy that would enable religions to come together, to create a global, government on this planet.
Yeah, like United Federation of Planets and Star
Like,
Trek.
well, getting back to Gene Roddenberry, he was part of a channeling session to channel these beings called the Nine. These were godlike aliens or something. And Puthoff later, in another thing from Ancient, asked these nine who they were. They said, "Who are you?" The name Atum, A-T-U-M, was pronounced. Atum is one of the chief deities of the Egyptian pantheon of gods. These other nine, the members of the nine, are also considered to be deities in Egypt. So we have this idea that, so there are beings of a fallen nature, from my perspective, that want to be worshipped as gods. Okay, they want to say, "Hey, we can help you to become a god." Okay, like in Star Trek, you pass through this barrier, and all of a sudden you have godlike powers. Or the Q continuum, he can give you temporary godlike powers if you get to know him and do what he says. So in Star Trek, in science fiction, in the UFO phenomena, there's then the New Age movement, there's this idea that humans can evolve or experience something called the ascension. Their DNA is altered, and like in this TV series Taken, there's this idea that some of these hybrids in the future will have godlike powers and abilities, like Dakota Fanning had in the show.
They probably do.
And if they do, well, they can create a following. They can say, "Wait, if you're like a messiah, you can save
they
mankind."
Can lead. They want them leading the world, right? And human beings will be second-class race.
People will say, "Hey, if these people are superior to us, they have powers, godlike powers, then yeah." But in some of the pagan religions and in Aboriginal beliefs, there are beings that are called tricksters, like Loki in the Viking pantheon of gods. He is a trickster god. There's a concept of tricksters with shamanism as well. There's beings.
You're saying the New World Order could be led by trickster aliens?
Well, either they're interdimensional beings that are posing as aliens, okay, or they're real. Maybe they are from another world, another dimension or world. But if their intention is to unite humankind, to create some kind of world government on this planet, through the threat of, we have to deal with the hostility of this. So in the exopolitics movement, they've divided aliens into two types now. There's a group called the Archons, the reptilians and Greys, okay?
What are the Archons, the reptilians and Greys?
The Archons are referred to in Gnostic beliefs.
Yeah, David Icke talks about, what are they reptilians though?
Well, some people in the exopolitic movement, they are reptilians and Greys, okay? But the human-looking aliens that Paul Hellyer has been told about, like Valiant Thor. The Valiant Thor is in that episode called Mysterious Nine as well. They are the ones that can guide humankind into a future that resembles Star Trek. Okay, but again, you have a federation of planets, humans and aliens working together. It sounds like a wonderful future for mankind. I mean, Star Trek. The ideas in Star Trek are very, very appealing.
Yeah, but still some things that, which is not good about it. The oneness, globalism,
Well, if it creates
all
an
races are equal.
authoritarian world government, see, in the Star Trek shows, they didn't have, you know, an authoritarian,
Yeah,
but
not
there
that
were
idea.
aliens that were very evil, like the Klingon originally. And
They kind of promote multiracialism, though. We're
or
very
you have the
multiracial.
idea of the Borg in Star Trek, you
Yeah.
know, a hive mind. They want to assimilate everybody. Well, we don't want to be part of it, like something like that, right?
But
So,
Jacobs talks about some civilizations like the Greys. It's totally in reptiles, it's totally structured and organized, and you have to. That's what they want, and what they don't like about us is we're so free. So the idea of a
yeah,
takeover would be completely controlled. They're totally controlled.
yeah. So some of these ideas have drifted into TV shows, movies, Star Trek, and so on. They are conditioning some people to accept this future, you know, maybe
I think
alien
so.
human form
Predictive
of government.
programming, like
It's
revelation of the method.
yeah, we call it, yeah, some people call it predictive programming. But if people fall for this and it creates a dystopian Orwellian world order, that's not going to be good.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add on the? We've been going almost an hour now on the New World
No,
Order.
I'm pretty well finished, but do you have any other things to add or
Well,
questions?
no, that's been good. I'm sure in future talks it'll come up because everything's so interconnected with ufology. It's such a complexity. Like no one knows it all. Even the secret government, they can't know it all. It's very complex. So I appreciate you got such just like 50 years of knowledge and you good memory. You can put it all together. So I haven't even gotten to questions. I want to. I'll have another video just questions, but maybe we can finish this one at this point and then do some
Okay.
more videos later.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes one thing leads to another when we're talking. And so sometimes.
Well, it's like that in any kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Everyone's like that, really.
Yeah. Because certain things pop into my mind when we're talking and then
That's
I
fine.
talk about it. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I thank you for the time and I hope this can enlighten some people. But each person has to decide on their own and do their own research, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm seeing as a possible future possibility. Okay, I hope
Yeah.
it doesn't happen in a long time, but you know, we don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
exactly the timing of what will happen in the future.
Yeah. Well, thank you kindly, Gordy.
Okay, well, thank you too. Thanks for the interview.